A priest and a rabbi have come together to sue New Jersey Governor Phil Murphy. Reverend Kevin Robinson of St. Anthony of Padua Church in North Caldwell filed the complaint on April 30th. Now, Rabbi Yisrael Knopfler of Lakewood has joined the suit. It maintains that Murphy's executive order requiring social distancing, which prohibits their congregations from gathering, violate the First and 14th Amendments. We reached out to the governor's office for a statement, and they refused to comment. Here to dive deeper into this, the attorney representing the religious leaders, Chris Ferrara. Chris, welcome to Chasing News. How are you?
Thanks for the invitation. I'm happy to be here.
Explain what you're suing on, First and 14th Amendment, what rights have been violated, and what are you looking for?
So the problem here is equal treatment for equal groups. If you can gather in non-essential, if you can gather in non-essential retail businesses, law firms, accounting firms, the headquarters of Fortune 500 corporations, white-collar office environments, you can gather there in unrestricted numbers. And under these orders, all you have to do is try your best at social distancing and sanitize common surfaces. Why can't you do that in the church or a synagogue? There are other problems. In the synagogue, there has to be a quorum of 10 men to do any of the Jewish prayers.
You're hoping to get relief, to get masses held and the congregations back in the church, in the synagogue. And how fast do you expect a decision?
That's right. What we're seeking is the right to gather in unrestricted numbers, which is also given to non-essential retail businesses like offices and so forth.
Okay.
And that would allow us to worship freely under the First Amendment as applied to the states by the 14th Amendment. We see no reason to distinguish between gatherings in business offices and gatherings in places of worship, especially with a numerical limitation prevents worship, as it does in this case.
All right. Thank you, Chris.
The Supreme Court passing down another victory to churches and to synagogues. Earlier this week, the High Court sided with two religious leaders in New Jersey who accused the governor, Phil Murphy, of violating their religious freedoms. One of those leaders is Father Kevin Robinson with St. Anthony Padua Church, and Christopher Ferrara, Robinson's attorney and special counsel in St. Thomas More Society. Thank you both for being with us.
Thank you for having us on.
You're welcome. So
Thank you, Ainsley.
The latest news is Supreme Court is siding with you after two lower courts sided with the governor. How are you feeling this morning, Father?
Oh, that's wonderful news. We're very grateful to the Supreme Court taking our case seriously for the common good.
And Christopher, what was your reaction when you heard the news?
The important thing in this decision is, following the court's decision in Brooklyn Diocese, is that the Supreme Court is obviously serious about applying a very simple rule. What's good for Costco is good for church. So if you have secular gatherings that don't have capacity limitations on them or are operating at, let us say, 50%, if not 100%, the same capacity limits have to apply to churches. The court is not impressed by the argument that churches are particularly dangerous viral vectors.
You know, Father, many of us have not gone back to church in person. We're watching online, and we miss it. It's not the same. It's wonderful that churches are providing this service, but we want to be there in person. It's such a different, more personal experience when you're there in church, surrounded by people who you love and your congregation.
Yes.
So what are your thoughts about that? What are the folks who go to your church? What are they saying?
Well, our people are very grateful because other churches have closed or with outrageous restrictions, and they're coming to us. We have nearly doubled the size of the parish, and we've had to double the worship space with downstairs, basement, a big screen, and another in the library, a big screen, so we can have all the new people coming with a little bit of social distancing. And they're very grateful.
So, Chris, I am grateful, too. Thank you for doing that. Christopher, what happens next here?
Well, what happens is that the Supreme Court has vacated the district court's original refusal to grant us an injunction against these ridiculous restrictions and has sent it back to the court. The fancy term for it is a grant, vacator, and remand. In other words, the Supreme Court says to the lower court, you got it wrong the first time. Get it right this time in view of our decision in the Brooklyn Diocese case.
All right. So then does this mean your parish can open up? You can have people in on Sunday?
We'll have to have a hearing, and we'll be pursuing injunctive relief again under the standard that the Supreme Court has made clear in Brooklyn Diocese, which again is basically, if you're going to restrict occupancy, you have to restrict it even-handedly as to religious groups and secular comparators like Costco, schools, mass transit vehicles, warehouses, and factories, and so forth.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to stay at home, you can. People can have the choice, and if they feel like they can do it safely, they can go to church, hopefully soon, because I know we'd all like to get back to that, as long as you're doing it safely. Merry Christmas to both of you. Father, I hope you have a great Christmas, and I hope you're able to have a Christmas message for your congregation.
Thank you very much. I
You're
appreciate
welcome.
it.
God bless you
Yes.
both.